What is going on, guys? Chris here. Welcome back to another video. So this is going to be a little bit different of a video than we've seen from myself lately. Something I've thought about talking about for quite a while. And upon doing some research, I found that this is the necessary first step, when dealing with this sort of thing. So I didn't know if I should make a video on this or not, but what the hell. So I have a problem. That was the first step in admitting it. It was just confirmed online by the World Health Organization that I have a disorder. I'm addicted to video games. Yep, that's what it is. That's what it is. Anyways, the World Health Organization just unanimously, so however many people are in this council that dictate the World Health Organization on what is a disorder, what is an addiction, what qualifies, etc., just came to a unanimous vote that gaming addiction is a real thing. So, all right, let's just talk about addiction and in what addiction is, all right? So, you have, like, obvious substance addiction to where your body develops the need for certain chemicals, so nicotine, any drugs, etc., that develop actual addiction or addictive, chemicals and substances, so what? Nicotine, alcohol, any other drugs, cocaine, meth, all that stuff that actually form chemical bonds that make it so your body needs these substances to where if you stop it, you have withdrawals. That is one type of addiction. Another type of addiction is a psychological, cultural addiction, I guess you could say. So there's people like sex addicts. Obviously, there is people who are addicted to gambling. Those are recognized addictions that are actually disorders, okay? So this has been a topic of conversation for a good while, and now I guess, according to the World Health Organization, gaming addiction is now going to be an official thing. So they have until January 1st, 2022 to fully have a descriptive list of signs, symptoms, and treatments for said addiction. So now you have to sit there and talk about what the difference is between a gambling, sex, etc. addiction and what they're considering a gaming addiction. So in the article, which I'll put right here, right, it gives a very brief description on what they voted on, what signifies if it's an addiction, what you're supposed to look for, normal things you would look for when you're trying to diagnose a disorder. I'm not going to read that word for word. I'll leave it on the screen for a little bit here. But it's basically, if it controls your life to the extent that, like, it's causing negative effects in other portions of your life, and, it's done for an excessive period of time. Just very generic stuff. So you have to talk about what the difference is between smoking. No, never mind. Sorry. That's a pretty easy example. You're not getting anything, like a substance from gaming. Basically, what happens in your brain is your brain releases chemicals when you do something that you enjoy, which is what makes you feel enjoyment, right? So when you're playing basketball, you're playing football, you're playing a sport, you're dating somebody, your brain releases a bunch of good chemicals that make you feel good. Dopamine, all that good stuff. You release that because your body's like, this is good. This is a good thing. We like this. So it influences you to do it more. So then when you talk about, like gambling, like the thrill of doing that, some people get addicted to it. So that's how that's how it's diagnosed. A disorder is diagnosed. So what is the difference between that and gaming? And there might not be much, but then if, gaming is a disorder, right? Like how often you're doing it. So to most people it's a hobby, to some people it's a job, to some people it's a sport, to some people it's plenty of different things. It's an outlet from, real life. If you just want to chill and relax, sometimes it's just, like I said, just a basic hobby for some people. So if we're just talking about the cultural aspect of gaming, what is the difference between a gaming disorder or addiction, or a social media disorder or addiction, or a gaming disorder and addiction, or a television, Netflix, Hulu, binge watching stuff? Where do we get that with an addiction? And then where do we draw the line between just addiction and hobbies? Because somebody likes to do something. What about sports? Could we have said Michael Jordan has a basketball addiction? He just loves to do that every day, all day? Or is it different just because it's on a screen? And I understand, like, sports people are going to think that sounds very stupid, but I'm just talking about psychologically, like, what is the difference? If we're talking about this with regular, like, traditional sports, I won't even say regular sports. If we're talking traditional sports, what is the difference between being obsessed with shooting a basketball and being obsessed with shooting a basketball in a video game? Like, Michael Jordan used to get home from school and do nothing but practice basketball every day. At no point did anybody be like, I think he's addicted. You know what I mean? That's just the part where it just starts to get complicated, because if gaming is a disorder and addiction, which I'm sure it actually is for some people, but I don't think it's because of gaming. I think it's because of the way their brain has developed. I think if a person would be addicted to gaming, they could be addicted to any form of... I don't know the exact word I'm looking for. Any form of resource that allows them to take their mind off life for a while. To some people that's drugs. To some people that's working out. Is there people that are addicted to working out? Is there some people who are addicted to certain sports? Is there some people who are addicted to certain forms of media? If we're just starting with gaming, everybody has a disorder then. You know what I mean? Everybody has a disorder then for something that you're interested in doing, which takes up a good portion of your life. Is there some people that are addicted to work and being successful? There's some people who wake up, they only allow themselves to get 4 hours of sleep. They focus on their job so much that they just throw away other portions of their life, their friends, their family. They're just so focused on being successful at their job. At what point is that an addiction? It's just the way, in my opinion, that humans, I'm a dog now. Humans have developed to, they like to be successful. And they like to be successful at what they're enjoying doing. And to some people, that's just playing a video game. To some people, that's working out. To some people, that's playing basketball. To some people, that's a job. Right? So what was interesting and how this has affected me a little bit is, I'm not going to call anybody out specifically because that's rude, but 5 years ago, a member of my family, not immediate family, but just somebody in my family tree, sent me an email. I talk to this person every year or two, and they reached out to me and sent me this long email. And it pretty much went like this. It's like, hey, Chris, so, throughout my life in my battle with addiction, they now attend AA meetings, like Alcoholics Anonymous. So they're like, throughout my life, they've been sober for like 40 something years now, right? So they're a good, representation of somebody who's been through actual addiction, right? And substance addiction, because that's where the line is drawn in my opinion, on if these things should be considered addictions or not. And he's like, throughout my battle with addiction, I learned, there are a lot of common traits amongst people with addictions, and that is like immaturity, self-centeredness, and just listed a few other negative, personality traits. And I knew where he was going with this the second I started reading the email, which seemed very odd because me and this person had never had this type of conversation before, and I've never in my life, in a real way, like I've been called immature because I am immature. Just with like what I enjoy, the type of jokes I enjoy, the type of like I could watch cartoon, like whatever. Like, you know, I'm going to watch Lion King this year. If that makes me immature, whatever. It's a good movie. Relax. I'm addicted to addicted to being immature. So you know, it goes on to be like in you know, whether you want to believe it or not, you have an addiction, and it was in reference to gaming, right? Because there are some cases where I guess I could, you know, say that, you know, not that I don't think the person has an addiction, but the person, you know, plays games way too much. You know, like if you're like skipping school and you know, not going to your job because you're going to stay home and play video games, I don't think that's necessarily an addiction problem. I think that's a you problem. I think that's a life decisions problem. I think that's a personality trait to where I think if you were heavily, you know, interested in another portion of your life, you would still be doing the same thing. You would still be skipping work. You would still be skipping school to go do this thing that you enjoy because your priorities in your life are not set correctly. I don't think that makes it an addiction. But either way, he went on to pretty much be like, whether you want to believe it or not, this is an addiction. I'm not trying to scold, chastise, or anything like that, but I just wanted, you know, you to know that, you know, this is a problem. And I responded with, in this isn't a type of conversation I ever have with family members. I'm always respectful. You know, when they give me advice, you know, when they say anything throughout my life, I'm always just like, yeah, okay. He said that, and I was like, absolutely not. At no point in my life has this ever affected any of my life negatively. Just because I do this as a hobby, you know, like when I'm off of work, when I'm off of school, I don't agree at all. You cannot correlate the same thing between alcohol addiction and gaming addiction, or saying that this is an addiction for me. It has not affected my life negatively in any way. I've been very successful in my job, you know, with promotions, with managing, with my, you know, my development of myself. It hasn't affected my school life. It literally has never affected any portion of my life. They just saw that I did it a lot, and they don't understand it. That's the issue, and that's what I feel like with the World Health Organization. They don't understand it. You know, it's the same thing as meeting up with friends and going and I know a lot, this might get hate when I say this. It's the same thing as meeting up with friends, in my opinion, better, and they like go out to a bar and they socialize. Some people get on a game and they socialize. Some people get on a game and they can socialize with thousands of people who are their fans, and that feels good. That does not make it an addiction. You know, like some of the top streamers, I'm going to link a few comments, you know, reactions to this. You know, Slasher initially reported on it. You know, Ninxie made a comment. Courage made a comment. They're all pretty funny. Somebody said we're going to collect disability. The other person said the only way I can get better is to get some Fortnite wins. And then Nixie brought up a good example of the other social medias that would be considered an addictive personality as well, or personality trait, or addictive quality, whatever you want to call it. But it's ridiculous. It's unfortunately fuel for parents and people who don't understand gaming in general. You know, don't use gaming addiction as an excuse to not be a good parent. When it's like, oh, I had to send, you know, so-and-so, little Timmy, to a therapist or to a boot camp or to something because of his Fortnite addiction. Or maybe just set guidelines for your children and tell them they're only allowed to play Fortnite from this time to this time after their homework's done or after they've gone outside for a little bit. Be a parent. You know what I mean? Be a parent. Don't blame. But that's what the issue is now. It's a, you know, there's an official organization calling this a disease, calling this a disorder, and now it's just an excuse. And it's ridiculous. So those are my thoughts on it. If you guys feel differently, be sure to leave it in the comments down below. You know, if I have to touch on this subject again, if I hear enough, you know, maybe I'll talk about it again. You know, if you're new to the channel, you're enjoying these type of videos you've seen over the past 4 or 5 days, subscribe. If this is your first video, welcome. We talk about, you know, stuff that happens within our gaming community, within this culture, within the online culture. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. If you didn't enjoy the video, I apologize. You know, leave a comment if you would like to see something else. And as always, I will see you guys tomorrow for the next video. Okay, bye.